Hey, how's it going? Today, I want to talk about nocturnal animals. And I I hesitated on doing this because I say that I don't want to, like, only good reviews, only shows I like. And this one was hard for me. This one was really hard to watch. It took me days to get through. But for a number of reasons, I wanted to stick with it. It was critically acclaimed. And the thing I remembered about first before I went to it and saw the whole cast, which is amazing. Couldn't ask for a better cast. Just great people. And I remembered that it wasn't written by someone that was in the entertainment industry. Tom Ford, who I was going to look this up before I started, and then I didn't because I guess I got sidetracked. But anyway, I believe he's a clothing designer, and he wrote and directed this movie. And it's really intense. Not to say that, if you have a talent in one thing, you can't do anything else. That's ridiculous. I just, a big deal was made of it. So I guess it was harder for, the press to accept that idea for some reason. But I don't want to go into all of that rigidity. Anyway, oh yeah. I got to get something else going on here because every time I try to do this, everything's washed out. Can you see those signs at all? There you go. That's my YouTube disclaimer. I wanted to just make sure that got on the record there. Anyway, so I was impressed that he did that all the way back when it came out, when I didn't have... for whatever reason, I wasn't home. I don't know. I didn't have the capability to watch it. And I always remembered that I wanted to because I wanted to see what did this guy do? What was it about and everything. And so it has a lot of actors that I really enjoy a lot. And I'm just going to quick run through that before I start gabbing. Amy Allen, who I love from Arrival, that shouldn't surprise anyone that watches my channel, and also from American Hustle, which is another one of my favorites that she was in with Christian Bale, where she played Cindy Presser. I don't remember how to pronounce it, but I'm just naming off my favorite movies because she's been in a whole bunch of other stuff. And you can assume that is the case with everybody else that I'm going to go forward with here. Jake Gyllenhaal, he was most recently in Ambulance. And another one that was just right almost behind it on his filmography was The Guilty, which, oddly enough, in that one, he's a police officer. In Ambulance, he's an EMT. So I have made a joke before about liking him in a municipal setting, but I pretty much like Jake Gyllenhaal in any setting. The next would be Michael Shannon, who we would know from The Shape of Water, where he played Strickland, and he was just completely positively awful. Sure. He was super awful in Boardwalk Empire. Whoa, weird. The self-flagellating Opus Dei, what was it? I guess pre-alcohol tobacco. No, that wasn't the agency. Well, he was part of the... Oh my God, I have... Come on, words, come to mind. when they had the alcohol thing in the 20s, I guess it was, where they prohibition, and he was like an anti-alcohol federal agent, and he was like one of the first of the precursor to the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Like, that was the one I started to say. Shut up. So yeah, so he's in those. Also, of late, he's in George and Tammy About George Jones and Tammy Wynette with Jessica Chastain, who I also love a lot in stuff. Oh, I guess I should have done a little bit of her filmography, but I didn't. But you know how to use your searchy fingers. Okay, and then, Michael Shannon was also in Amsterdam, which I just made a video about, and also has Christian Bale. Are you seeing a theme? Where he played Henry Norcross, and he was a creepy federal agent. Okay. And, okay, so, I did do more. And Aaron Taylor Johnson is in it, and he was most recently in Bullet Train with Brad Pitt, Be Still My Heart. And he was Tangerine. He was in Tenet, which everybody said was so horribly confusing, and I was like, why? If you don't have anybody watching it with you, and you're the only one commenting, and also you can rewind, that helps. Maybe if I watched it in the theater, it would have been harder to understand. But still, I watched so much time jump, time travel, quantum leaping type things that it wasn't that hard to follow, really. I mean, at all. And I liked it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So, there. And Isla Fisher, who was in that movie Tag with, come on. He was in Arrested Development, which he was Jason Bateman. Good grief. So his Tag had, I think, also Jason Sudeikis. Definitely Ralphie Day, I think his name is, from Sunny in Philadelphia, that just always is yelling for some reason. Kevin Hart does that, and it's interesting. They're both sort of short of stature, and their comedy is screaming their head off. What's that about? Anyway, I got totally sidetracked there. So anyway, Tag, it was a silly movie about, and Jeremy Renner's in it, and he's deliciously, unstoppably, perfectly evil and yet good at the same time. Like, evil in the Tag game. He's just he's unbelievable, ninja comedy. He's so good at that. I forgot about that. Yeah, bless his heart, But he's going to get better. He's going to be in good shape. And if you don't know what I'm referencing, a few weeks ago, so it's like February 15th today, 2023, and over the end of the holidays, I guess, he was in some sort of snow plowing machine, and it's big, and it fell on him and chewed up his legs, and I didn't look too close because it just sounds terrible. I just, hope I know he's going to be better. He's in good spirits, which makes so much of a difference when you're ill. And he's going to have the finest medical care. He's just got a ways to go. And I wish him the best of health and luck and all that stuff. Anyway, so Isla Fisher was in Tag, and she was also in Arrested Development and Curb Your Enthusiasm. And she had movies on there, but I wasn't familiar with them at all. I think a lot of them were British, but it feels I don't know. It feels like she was in more stuff that's not on there. Anyway, and then he's not in it very much, but I'm just including him as a sort of I'm sad to say, a curiosity, just because it became such a curious case of a person, is Armie Hammer. And you know him from Social Network, where I believe he played the Winklevoss twins, and the latest film version of The Lone Ranger. Not the greatest movie. Anyway, he said some, like, just plain weird things that sounded like he was all kinds of serious, according to the people he allegedly said them to. And I don't know. I mean, it was seriously you really had to be there kind of situation, because, because people were saying they thought it was one thing and it was serious and it was emotional and scary to people. Other people kind of, like, just seeing it in the media, just kind of latched on to that and piled on to the guy. And there's a few people saying, no, he's cool, he's good. I mean, I don't know what's up with him and all of that, but boy, if you want to talk about somebody getting canceled, that guy for real got canceled. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if all of that was necessary, even if he really did say it and mean it. I mean, did he act on it? That's the thing. Like, aren't you supposed to actually commit a crime before you're supposed to be suspected of doing it? I don't know that anything has pointed to that. Like, that's kind of important if you're going to totally freak out on a person. I don't know. I mean, I just feel bad for the guy. He's just, but I think he'll be okay too, because we all have to go through these crazy trials in life sometimes that, I'm not. we get ourselves in situations. So anyway, nocturnal animals. What in the heck is? Oh my God! It took me so many places. First of all, I couldn't even watch it all in one sitting. It took me about 4 days to watch it, because the subject matter, I guess, hit some nerves. But it was a couple, and then for a number of reasons that they show you pretty much right at the beginning, it doesn't end up working out. And one of the partners in the couple is a rich daughter of wealthy people, and the other partner in the couple is not, and he doesn't want to do like the for sure American dream type programming with his life, with his wife to be, just to please like her parents or like anybody else, really, because I'm with him on that. Why should you? If you can like make it work for you and you don't have to do the things that you're expected to do, more power to you. Right on. Yeah, like good for you. But that's just me. But her mother tells her exactly how she's going to feel and exactly how it's going to go wrong, and kind of doubles down on like the familial and social programming, and just kind of, she's the one that dooms the thing, because at the same time, well, not at the same time, but gradually, the mother's kind of right, but she like puts it into play. She tells Susan he is romantic, and I don't remember who said it to who, but she just said that. Well, she did at one point like praise him for things, but it wasn't like anything that could earn $1. Basically, it was like emotional qualities that are. What she seemed to be saying was that are great when you're young, but you can't eat them or like buy a house with them. Basically, like I think definitely people my age have heard that kind of thing from not only your parents, but from the school and from strangers. Like everyone's just telling you got to do. Do you remember in Shoot, what was that movie with Dustin Hoffman, The Graduate, where he's at that uh, party for the woman that he wants to marry, but it's for the woman and some other guy, and there's all these people just talking to him, and the plastics guy comes up and he just starts telling him all this stuff about you got to do this and you got to do that and go into this. Like, people just did that, or I guess they still do. I'm old now, so nobody's telling me to go do anything, but like, just anybody would just walk up and be like, you should do this, and they like tell you how your appearance was right or wrong and what you should do about it, and I'd be like, who the fuck are you? Get away from, excuse my language. It just kind of engendered that response like every time. But anyway, back to what I was saying. He's shoot, what the heck's his name? Sorry, excuse me. So Tony / Edward is not doing that. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to be a writer. And, I can also relate to that. Not just because I'm a writer. I'm just like now in my life taking that more seriously than I used to in publishing things. But my plan was to be a musician. I want to get that one right. And then it's like what I was doing. I had a day job, and I had also like the music stuff that I did like the rest of the time. Well, not like all of the whole time, but eventually the goal was that I would get to where I was doing the music thing well enough that I didn't have to do the working as a clerk in a store thing or other jobs like that. And I had jobs of varying degrees of, difficulty, or how well they paid or not. Total side note here. I'm watching the news today, and they're talking about, I think, Matt Gaetz, or Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida, and something about his case, and they're basically in support of him, and they say what the paper is, and it's at the Santa Monica Observer. I used to deliver papers for them, or I used to be a route supervisor, so I started out delivering, and then they promoted me, and I was, the route, like I supervised other people doing routes. So, but I didn't read the paper, and this was, oh my goodness, 88, 85, 89, somewhere in there. So the content would have been completely different. But if I was going to read a paper, it would have been the LA Times for a number of reasons. Some of them very personal to me. So anyway, back to this. But that's the kind of thing I had to do. So, I mean, they had an argument in the movie, Edward and Susan, when it started to break down, and the mother even, oh God, she was right, but you just wanted to kind of like throttle her a little bit, like stop talking, because she said the thing you never want to hear. They were having an argument back and forth, Susan and the mother, and Susan said some sort of like reactive, angry daughter thing, like, nah, nah, nah. Oh, I'm nothing like you. I'm nothing like you. And the mother just like laughs, kind of chuckles dryly. And she's like, oh, well, we all turn into our mothers. And, of course I had to think about that. And, well, that's going to be a hard one, because my mom was a stranger to me. So I don't even know what she was about. And she died when I was 19. So that was a confusing thing. So you see what I'm saying? Like, I had to keep stopping this movie because it became like a personal, emotional roller coaster, as well as just watching what the people were going through. So that's sort of part of the setup, what I've been saying. And then at one point, Susan and Edward are having an argument, and she's basically living what the mom had said was going to be put in motion if she married Edward. And Susan fought against it at the time and said, that'll never happen. Where would love, that kind of thing. And the mom was just like, yep. Okay, we'll see. And then it was happening. So while it's happening, Susan, I would have... See, now I don't know if I'm putting that in her head, so I'm just going to keep that in mind. They're having this argument, though, and she is, basically mouthing everything the mom said was going to happen or that she'd have to say to Edward and what was going to happen in the situation. And it was just terrible to watch because Edward's like, hey, wait a minute, like... I felt like he was saying, are you in love with me or money? Like, what's the deal? You don't even want to try? And she's like, I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. Like, oh, poor little rich girl. So she, reverted to form, just like her mom said she would. And the thing about it is that Mom also said that if she married Edward, she would end up hurting him. And when the movie gets out of the past and into the present, because it's all over the place just tense-wise, time tense, present, what is the word? Temporally. It's all over the place, kind of. And they end up breaking up. And she remarries, and they're childless. And so she's having a discussion with someone that she'd been thinking about Edward, and he sent her a manuscript of his novel. And that, triggered even more memories and thoughts about him. And she retells this little sort of vignette from her life of, when she broke up with Edward, because she said it was brutal, and it was that thing where she kept saying, I can't do this anymore, and she was really copping out. He's like, oh, you're not even gonna try? And I understand, I would feel wait a second, so what I thought was going on the whole time was not even the case. If everything doesn't work out to your satisfaction, you're just gonna dump me? I'm not even worth that? What were we doing all, that was all going through my head. And, he's a two-dimensional character on the screen there, but still, I was like, how dare you? I'm so mad at her. I mean, you could see it coming. But boy, does he ever get her back? Because then she starts reading that manuscript, and when I didn't know, what I just related to you about, her thoughts about Edward when she got the manuscript and her remorse at dumping him so bad, because, ouch. I mean, they have a whole discussion where he was like, you never believed in me. And she's like, no, I did, but why? He was like, yeah, but you keep suggesting that I go to school. And she's like, well, yeah, you should go to school. I want you to go to school. And it was almost like she didn't say it, but boy, it was right there. You got to have a plan B. You got to have a backup plan, something to fall back on. I don't know if people still say that, but God, it kind of curdles in my stomach because it just felt so oppressive. I don't want to do any of the things you want me to do. Leave me alone. It was, yeah, wow, it was hardcore, I guess. Anyway, yeah, he's pissed. He's bummed. He's like, who were you that I was with all this time? You were just waiting to see if... Again, this is me paraphrasing what I think he would have been thinking, but I feel like he got that idea from what was happening. And so they broke up, and then however long yet later, they say, but I forget, so I'm not going to try and remember, just say several years later, she gets the manuscript and she starts reading it, and it's this horrible story. So again, I'm going to say that I didn't know all the stuff I was just talking about when this happened, when I saw it in the proper sequence. But he, in the story, he and the wife, but it's not, her, it's a different name. I know there's another name for that, but I can't dig it out of my gummy brain right now. So anyway, they're on the road with the pseudo family. It's also an alternate name for him. And they get sort of waylaid by these like road bandits, and everything you think is going to happen if they're in Texas and they're in the middle of nowhere. They just got through saying we're in the middle of nowhere, and I said that's where bad things going to happen to you. I didn't know what was going to happen yet, and then right there, boom, bad things started to happen to him. And you can imagine 4 guys that are toughs, and Tony / Edward was not a tough in his Mercedes in Texas, which I've got relatives there. I've lived there for a short period of time, and Texas has a vibe. Texas has a reputation that precedes it, and you can imagine that a Mercedes might be looked on in certain areas with a level of scorn. So, especially if they're like from out of town, and I think Tony was supposed to be from Texas, and the wife and the daughters were from wherever else, not Texas. And, there's 2 carloads of guys, so they're outnumbered, they're menacing, they have that thing that I just, I don't want to say hate, but too late I said it, about when, you see, and I know this happens for real too, like a show, but this would have been in like the 90s when this was more of a thing, but they'd have like a gangster in what reality, cops, whatever it was, but you talk to them and then they would like take it wrong, and all of a sudden they're like, you disrespected me. And my immediate reaction to that, even though it's never happened to me, thank God, because it would have been like not a good reaction to give back to that type of person, but my reaction is all like, why do you think they should respect you? They just met you. You have respect has to be here. Like, I'm just over here going nuts over. Yeah, I don't even know why I started babbling about that. Oh yes, but that's the kind of guys they were. Like, they couldn't say anything to them. Like, you'd say it and they turn it against you. And like the one guy, the worst one, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. I think was his name, Marcus, I think. Oh, yeah, Ray Marcus. He was like the gang leader. He was the mouthiest one. He obviously had all of his like subordinates, bowed into submission. If you watch enough cop shows, you'll learn a lot about that kind of dynamic. It actually has a name, but I can't drum it up right now. Anyway... He says, not at the time that it's happening, but you can see it in action. So he says it later on. He says, if the girl says I raped her, then I guess I rape people. Oh, he was talking about his wife, and he was like having problems with her, just having this rant rattling on, trying to just mess with people's heads, especially Tony's at the time. But he was saying, oh, my wife said I was messing around with other women. And so I said, oh, am I? Okay, then I'll go mess around with other women, even though that's what he was totally doing. And then talking about Tony's daughter, like in the same paragraph, he says, oh, so the little girl says I'm a rapist, then I guess I'm going to have to rape her. And like that kind of thing, that is scary to encounter. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're sort of like a nebbish, bookish guy, and you're not a tough, you don't have a gun. And I don't know why this was weird. Like, even though it was, 2016 is not that long ago. Texas is bristling with guns and gun-loving people. I can't believe no guns appeared at the time when the toughs separated Tony from his family. And, at the same time, while I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, the scene itself is kind of like will scramble your stomach, or it did mine. But the idea that you get this is just what Susan is reading, and it's not even real. And she has to throw she can't even read the novel. Well, maybe no one can just sit down and have time to just read something all in one fell swoop, but she can't read it. She has to keep putting it down, is my point. So you have to keep turning off this movie. But I think about that, this is your ex-husband, and you later find out that she knows that she brutally dumped him and just stomped all over his ambition and his self-confidence, because it was kind of built on what she thought of him. And I'm just making an observation here, but I don't know if that's something your self-confidence. I don't know if that's a teamwork thing, even in a couple. And it sure wasn't in this case, because she did everything horrible. And I know I don't know anything. I'm just thinking in terms of the bubble of the inside the movie. But she knew better. She knew what she was doing. She says it later. But I think when we do things like that, we always know what we're doing, kind of, especially when the other person tells you, you're crushing my heart, And she tried to, shrug it off. That's not what I'm doing. People ain't dumb, especially when they got their emotions wide open, they get in moments like that. You ain't fooling nobody. Just got that gaslight on. So, but yeah, I had to keep turning it off. But at first I thought, my God, what a horrible guy. Why would he do that to her? Make a story and put her in that. But, as the story goes on, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is more about who hurt you thing. And it definitely was, but maybe I'm thick. Maybe it was the subject matter that touched nerves, but I just didn't get that all right away. And then, whoa, the way that the women are treated and the way that Tony is treated in the story, and then Michael Shannon's character, Andy's, whoa, that is just an exercise in, I don't know, existence is futile. Yikes! I mean, I don't know why it took so long for Tony to figure out that the dude was dying of cancer. What with the puffing away like a chimney and the shrinking and the looking like utter crap. That's movie for cancer, dude. I mean, you're in the movie. Oh, wait, no. He was in a book. But still, books are supposed to be more cerebral, right? Well, anyway. Enter Andy's, and he's, as I said, he's dying, and he's getting a shaft because of it, and they're not even trying to do this case where this guy's family got horribly assaulted, kidnapped, and killed by these people that they finally caught. And he's supremely frustrated. I mean, in the sort of pantheon of movie lawmen, he's a lawman, and he wants to do his job, and he, finally gives up to Tony that's what he's got to live for. He's got a daughter that he's not in touch with. There's no spouse. There's apparently nothing but police work and cigarettes. And he's mad they want to ruin his case for him, his last case. So he's willing to go to extreme measures and do whatever, because he knows he's not going to be even if he goes to prison, they ain't going to have him for long. He's on death's door basically. But he doesn't end up. Well, he actually kills one of them, and you never know what happens about that, because the whole rest of the focus is on sort of shock moments happening where Susan will drop the book, and you go back to her reality, her out of the book into the movie reality. And there's sort of shocking things going on there with her too, and she's having flashbacks and memories and regrets, and I mean, pretty like understandable stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna just sort of wrap it up here because you get the idea. I thought I didn't have good things to say about it, but I guess I do, because I don't mind when a movie sort of transports me, but not only just like takes me apart and makes me think, because I'm not into like sob stories, because I'm not into sobbing very much. But now it happens all the time. It's like involuntary. I'll be watching something that has no sad, and all of a sudden I'm weeping, and I'm not crying. My body just decided to let go, and whatever that's about. But and that, I didn't get any of that in this. This was, man, this was just, it just beat me up. But I'm impressed, I have to say. Like, wow. I wonder if that guy has another one of these in him, Tom Ford, because I wonder what that took to, wrench this out of him. It had to be emotional. My God, what inspired it? What hurt him? I don't know. I'm not saying I don't know that. I'm not saying that I know something hurt him, but I don't think any of us escape. Oh, I'm like just putting my stuff away while I'm in the middle of doing this. Hold on, come back here. Oh, right, I'm done. And I am done. If you want to have an emotional experience, definitely see this movie. And there's a whole lot more people I didn't mention and that I didn't add to my little cast board over here, but search your finger. You know how to find it if you really want to know. Thank you and good night.